One of the challenges that we are always faced with, or more so in recent years, is that people always claim that everybody becomes more radical, kitzoni. Kitzoni comes from the word ketz, end. So you go to the end of the, radical. And it seems that as time goes by, we become more and more radical, and because we become more radical, we cannot bridge the gaps that are there between all of us, and becomes a problem. So what do we do about it? And how is this happening? That first of all happens because there is no spiritual light coming in here. Everything is superficial. Everything is chitzoni, external, chitzoni. When it's on the surface, it's good. When it's on the surface, these are Timberlands. It's the light cannot penetrate. For example, if I have a light source, okay, that hits a shining object that is very shining on the outside, regardless of what's inside, the light will bounce out and will be to the point that I can't even see it. So the problem of radicalism is externalism. And we also sometimes as religious people become very external. We are more interested in what kippah do you wear? You wear this. Sam, by the way, you change your kippah, right? You change your kippah, you maybe like this. However, your shirt, and what pants are you wearing? And you're wearing your tzitzit out, and the buttons are this way, and that is this way. And if we are very interested in the externalism. And because we are all external, then we see the difference. For example, I don't know what kind of skin I am. I guess I don't know. I'm not white. I don't know, olive complexion. Like a real Jew, as the Mishnah says, right? Like a real Jew, olive complexion. And let's say it's a person who is a dark-skinned fellow, right? Or a black person. I don't like the word to use the word black, because they're not real, but or a Chinese man, or Indian, or browns, or reds, and what are we, like a football team here? So when I see that, I only see, and by the way, how thick is your epidermis, right? It's like, I don't know, millimeter, not even a millimeter. Once I'm going to peel your skin, we're all the same. So what we concentrate on is it's just a shell. It's the external. And we say, oh, this guy's black. Oh, we call him a negro, Oh, this guy is a chink, he's a yellow man, and this guy's white, What are you saying? You are saying that you are basically a very external person that judges people based on their external appearance without actually looking at the substance of who the person is. One of the reasons, by the way, that it's important to wear tsanua clothing is that the clothing are a filter or protection from this kind of externalism. That's why it's important to get dressed also for men. Not only tzniut is not just a way to confine women and to so-called control women. And of course, if you're saying that, you have absolutely no understanding of what tzniut is all about. For men as well. The beged clothing, beged comes from the word bagad, betrayed. When we betrayed God, we allowed a certain holding of the, let's call it the dark side, grab onto us when Adam HaRishon made the sin, and from this point, that source, that's what it it's like a leech that sucks all the good out of you. So when we wear clothing, we are trying to overcome this begida, this betrayal of God. In order to overcome this externalism, I mean, because it really doesn't make a difference if, what color are your eyes? Let's imagine we judge people by the color of their eyes. Oh, green eyes, 20 push-ups. Blue eyes, 100 push-ups. Brown eyes are golden, right? It will be stupid to judge a person by the color of their eyes. It will be therefore stupid to judge a person by the color of the skin or by the clothes he's wearing. There is an issue for clothing, but we don't judge the people. We're not the judge. There's judge and that's God. Now, so if the cause of all evil that makes us radical is externalism, so therefore we need to know, or we need to understand that really the cure for that will be internalism. We need to look at the person inside, who really he is. And I would like to, start today, even though it's the last shiur for the year, but hopefully we'll carry it throughout the year. Maybe on Friday we're going to introduce some Kabbalistic concept to try to overcome this thing. So today I want to skip a lot of different steps and just jump into the middle. And I want to talk about what is so-called the Or Mekif and Or Pnimi, the surrounding lights and the internal lights. We know that, first of all, that the Or Mekif, which we'll see exactly what it is, hopefully if we're battery enough, usually what repairs it is the talit outside, the big talit, and the Or Pnimi is the talit katan. That's why it's important to wear talit beyond the requirement or beyond the culture aspect on it. There is something that it's much greater than that, and that's what it is. So if we ourselves find ourselves judging people because of the way they are on the outside, or we are people who are very interested in externalism, I want a shining car, it's important to me to wear a brand name clothing and so on and so forth. What difference does it make if I'm wearing Hugo Boss or I'm wearing Kirkland? There's no difference. I mean, it's clothing, it's good, it should be it. So if I am the person who is interested in like Mr. Fitch over here, right? If we are interested in external brand names and so on and so forth, we don't really understand. We should really understand that we're becoming more external. In other words, we're becoming less spiritual. You can't have both. You can't have both. You need to understand that. So it doesn't really make a difference if you have a silver cup to make kiddush and it's like this goblet, like the Holy Grail, or you have as long as the cup is toveled and it's defined by halacha as a cup, it's a cup, that's good to go. The cup would not make your bracha more meaningful rather than the bracha itself. So regarding maybe trying to understand the connection between the external light, the surrounding light and the internal light, we need to understand that the spiritual light is divided into two: external, surrounding, and internal light. And that difference also exists in many higher levels of awareness and existence. And later on I'll explain to you something off the camera about other things regarding man and world and so on and so forth. But I have something, but it's not for the camera. So what would considered for us, external or surrounding life, should not say external, surrounding life and internal life. So the Or Mekif, as we say Mekif means to surround, right? Is the light, the spiritual light that surrounds the person before it enters the vessel. And we need to be able to draw those lights, right? And and to the person, that's his spirituality that surrounds him, that he, all the time. And sometimes people have no spirituality and become radical, right? However, that's the spiritual entities or spirituality that is around him, but yet does not dwell inside of him. He needs to kind of process this to bring it from the outside to the inside. Okay, and by the way, just to let you know, as you could see, the more, I'll use the term liberal in terms of defining a person who is really an atheist or not believing. So the more liberated you are, liberated, the question is liberated from who? Mainly is from God, the more radical you become. That's usually what happens, right? So, so that light that is around us exists in potential because it's inside, but doesn't really take effect, and it only takes effect as spirituality comes out only when it's been processed and becomes a part of you. So the cycle is from the outside to the inside. You are spiritual in potential, but you're not spiritual at all. And that's the problem, by the way, with New Age. It's people gather that spiritual forces around them, but they never internalize them. It's only superficial. They'll keep on doing what they're doing, and so on and so forth. You got to be very careful. Now, you also need to be very careful because in spiritual forces and spirituality, there's positive and negative, like anything else. There's not only good, there's good and there is bad. There's kochot tum'ah, the powers of impurity, and there's a kochot tahara, of purity, impurity and purity. They have to be, otherwise they can't exist. If there's no kochot tum'ah, there's no kochot tahara, because if there's no bad, how you define good? Okay? In our world, in our existence. So, for example, if we are talking about knowing and choosing, yediah u'bchira, which is completely opposites, right? I know something and then I choose something. It's two different things. Those concepts are very difficult to deal with, and you really need to struggle a lot with philosophical ideas and practices, and when you start to actually understand those things. And there's a big difference. That's where we always have a problem. How come God knows what we're going to choose? And that usually becomes the big problem, which is quite limited in our ability to understand. So we need to understand that every spiritual abundance, by its nature, has to first of all appear on the outside before it goes on the inside. And that the way it goes inside is by the work, how much work and effort are you going to put into it, where we're going to take something from a theoretical point of view and going to make it actually practical. So in potential, we have, as Jews especially, have a potential to be very spiritual. But that potential needs work to make it internal. And we need that chip that would do that. That chip is only Torah. You cannot, especially as a Jew, become truly spiritual, be able to digest the spirituality, this kochot, without that chip that would allow you, that code that would allow you to start the process and bring it inside and transform it. It's like that enzyme that breaks it down and then filters the bad to the good. You can't do it without Torah. Torah is the chip. Torah is the code that does it. And we need to understand that. So if somebody tells you, oh, Rabbi, I'm interested in spirituality, not in Judaism, tell them, you don't know what you're saying. I cannot help you because you don't know what you're saying. You think you know, and I cannot teach you at that point because you think you know. If you already know, there's no way for a teacher. A person always needs to understand that he doesn't know and he can learn from anyone. Especially if you are a teacher, you should understand that you can learn a lot from your students. As much as I teach you, I learn from you as well. We learn in different methods. I learn from you and I gain wisdom by your questions. Where you learn sometimes by the question that I present to you. Right? So the process is there. It has to be there. So, but this is not that possibility is not just a theoretical concept. It actually, of course, it actually affects the nefesh, and we know that, for example, as we said before, levush, clothing is has a purpose. For example, we wear clothing to protect us to warm us, to insulate us from the elements and so on and so forth, right? I don't know if you walked in a hot and humid, hazy day without a shirt. It's disgusting. I mean, you can't stand yourself. You want to pull your skin, but you put a cotton shirt on. Oh, that's much better, you know. Or I don't know if you ever walked in a brush, in like with short pants. I mean, that's why I don't understand hikers who go hiking with short pants. I mean, this is crazy. Unless you go yodeling in Switzerland somewhere, But if you go hiking, you have to wear long pants. You have to wear long sleeves. You have to. So the clothing, as much as they have a physical, use, they also operate as has a spiritual use, and we go through it through the clothing itself, and the same thing, if we're talking about elements that would affect our body in terms of our clothes, you should understand that when you wear also your physical clothes, it also affects you from other stuff that comes outside. For example, you dress like a nice Romeo over there, right? True Religion jeans, Finch t-shirt, whatever it is. Forget about other stuff. You look nice. You have like a helipad on your head, with the hair. I won't mention your name, Zalman. I mean, I'm sorry. Nobody knows which Zalman, right? Anyway, you're gonna go to college. Or you're gonna come across, and some nice girl will come, and start talking to you because you. But I'm going to go like this. Nobody will talk to me. So there is a certain reason why we dress up the way we dress up as Jews. The levush of a Jew is important. It's a filter. I don't see, with all due respect, I don't see a college girl not Jewish hitting on a guy that dressed up like me. And it's not because I'm afraid of being hit. I can hit back. Believe me, right, Michael? Yes. But I don't want to come to that. I'm not afraid of that. I just don't want it in me. Because anything you do, there is always something will penetrate. When you hit something, that object that will merge in the microscopic level, that will merge. I don't want this in a microscopic level. So you need to really think about what you're doing and why are you dressing. The malbush, the levush is very important. It's very important. And that's why one needs to dress up like a Ben Torah, one needs to dress up like a Jew. Now, the levush itself, from a spiritual point of view, that's why I have to be very careful to wear a talit katan and a talit gadol when I pray. Because that affects, before the regular clothing are also, not only, but also for the physical element, but these are protection from the spiritual element. That's why you have to check your tzitziot, because the magic appears when I'm wearing the tzitziot. When I have a four-corner garment, surrounded by all sides, and then I have the tzitziot, then it becomes a spiritual garment. It's a special garment that I wear when I'm doing spiritual activity. That's why I have to wear it. Now, there is a difference, of course, between women and men regarding wearing tzitzit, but that is off the camera, and I'll explain to you later. They don't need it. So therefore, a woman that actually puts it on might actually spiritually harm herself rather than benefit herself. Okay? Now, I won't take it too long because I'm getting hints from the battery. But we need to understand that ikar avodah, the main part of the Jew's work, is to be able to take the or mekif, the surrounding light, and process this to internal light. to take that potential and turn it into a reality, a spiritual reality, in order to take everything that you do and to internalize it. And when we don't do that, it becomes bad. That's why you can find many times so-called Torah observant people who are very external, very radical, because they're not processing it appropriately. We're going to get to it, maybe why, and so on. For example, the Or Mekif will be like a chuppah or a sukkah, right? You walk underneath it, it surrounds you, or a talit gadol, and so on and so forth. And that's why it says, La'atid lavo, it says, tzadikim yeshvim ve'atarotehem berosham, right? With the crowns on the head. In other words, the pleasure of Olam Haba is actually the transforming of the Or Mekif into Or Pnimi, and which is the Atara, right? Inside, which is in the Pnimiyut, Berosham, inside Atarot Beroshem, should be Atara al Rosho, no Berosho. So therefore, when I'm taking the external and putting it like this, because, and why is that? Because the tzaddikim, who are the tzaddikim? Because the people who were Toreach and Erev Shabbat, and it doesn't make a difference how rich and wealthy and powerful you are. You have to be Toreach in your house in Erev Shabbat to do something for Shabbos. And you are Toreach in Kiyum Mitzvot and Avodat HaBoreh. You're looking forward to it. You're not running away from it. You're running to it. That's who we call a tzaddik. Not a guy who wears all white and says, please, tzaddik, or gives you brachot. Tzaddik is a person who does that. Who pursues. There's a mitzvah, okay, I'll do it. There's a mitzvah to do that. Oh, it's not a problem. I'm running to it. But you should run. I told you many times the stories about Rabbi Ben Zion, Abba Shaul, Abba Shalom, and things like this. That's just an example of a tzaddik. People like that. When they see a mitzvah, they care. They don't care who it is. The mitzvah to help a Jew. He goes and helps a Jew. He doesn't care. He's a Rosh Yeshiva. He goes and help a Jew. When we will be able to do so, then you understand that process is like, that's actual pleasure, and therefore yizku la'atid lavo. What's la'atid lavo, right? Like the internal Shabbat. So mi shetarach be'erev Shabbat yochal be'Shabbat, right? If you prepare an erev Shabbat, tarach, not just tarach, you need to work hard. Yochal be'Shabbat, then you have the lights on Shabbat to eat. So whoever works in this world, and now when you have the chance, you work hard in Asiyat HaMitzvot and pursuing that. Yochal b'Shabbat, la'atid labo, when the tikkun is complete, which symbolizes b'Shabbat, you're going to enjoy by the actual transformation of that external light in the spirituality, which is something abstract, into a reality to you. Now, that would something that we could all relate to one way or another, right? In terms of the pleasure of transforming that. When you have meaningful life, a life that are driven and directed by meaning, by deeper internal meaning. I mean, even in this world, you could enjoy that, I think this tremendous benefit that one gets, not only Be'olam Haba, but also Be'olam Hazeh, when you are able to have spiritual life. When it's not just a theory that you're reading some book and so on, you actually living that. You're seeing things, and therefore when a person is able even now to process that, he looks at things completely different. He doesn't see the person. He's able to connect to the point in a person that is never going to be corrupted, to the nitzotz Eloki that exists in any Jew, in any creature, and to relate to that without definition. For example, it says in this week's parasha, it says in Chem Obim, right, Rashe Shiftechem, right, and so on and so forth, Chotev Etzecha v'Shoev Meimecha. It says Rashe Shiftechem. It shouldn't say that. It should say Mi Rashe Shiftechem, from the head of the tribes all the way to the guy who chops the wood and brings the water. Mi Sham Ad Lepo, right? And the answer is no. Everybody is important. However, there's a big difference. Right? You know what I'm referring to, right? The difference is very simple. There is the chotev Etzion, the guy who chops the wood, and the guy who brings the water up. It seems like two degenerate jobs, guys schleps water, the guy chops wood. But the difference is not, according to the Torah, the difference in them is not in the how important the job is, or Shevet is here, and then those two guys at the end. The Torah says no. The Torah says it's not the title that is important, but rather the essence that it's important. Chotev Etzecha is a person who chops wood. He does his job with a garzen, with an axe. He chops, he kills, he destroys. Not always good. Look what we're doing to the forests in the Amazons and all over the place. And the water, the guy who brings the water brings nourishment to people. He goes, he brings the water out, he brings the shefa out, he brings the bracha out to the person who is thirsty and he quenches his thirst. So the difference is not in the title, the difference is in the essence of what you do your job, or what your job is. Are you quenching people's thirst? Are you bringing the bracha up? Or you are the one who's chopping trees? As we say, refer to the Gemara and to many people, kitzetz benetiot. He who chopped the trees out. People plant trees, the guy comes with an axe and cuts it off. And we see it many times in the Torah, not to cut a tree when you're coming to a war in a city. First of all, you have to call it to peace and so on and so forth. Our respect to trees is not just some kind of a New Age thing. It's carried within itself a special and very deep spiritual meaning. And we need to be able to see. And we are blind people. And we are blind because we see things from the light that is being reflected to us. And sometimes it's blinding. In Israel, they build a solar farm somewhere in the desert, and there is a huge tower. And this tower is shining for miles. Drivers cannot look at it because it blinds them. So we are blind because we only see the outside of the surface of the person. We don't look inside of the inside, at the point, and not even who it really is inside. We need to find what good is in the person, and we need to bring it up like this. So therefore we are blind. And we are blind by externalism, then we become radical. So we need to be able to find a way, a method for us to actually take this potential and turn it into reality. To take spirituality and stop talking about it and actually start living it. To realize that all these materialistic things are not a goal in our lives, but rather a mean to get our lives, to eat and to drink, but it's not the purpose. You weren't here, you didn't come here to make money. You came here to fix the world. And the tikkun olam has to be tikkun only through spirituality. Let's not get carried away with externalism. Let's bring the spirit up, because that's the tikkun hanefesh. And we'll tikkun hanefesh, we'll be metaken the nefesh by doing the mitzvot, putting the tefillin, doing the Torah, mezuzah, putting a mezuzah on our house. All these things also have to do with external and internal light. And that's tikkun hanefesh that lays in our head, in our hearts, and in the liver. The ruach is in the heart, the neshama is in the head, and the spirit is in the liver. That's why we don't eat inner parts of animals sometimes. We need to understand those things. And it's good that we have Shabbat right before Rosh Hashanah. I think it's very good, because it allows us to take a break. Because sometimes we walk hard, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the week comes Rosh Hashanah, and we don't. It's very important that we have Shabbat, and try to use this Shabbat to reevaluate what you are doing and how you're doing it. And then try to implement it from Shabbat, carry it over to Sunday, and then into Rosh Hashanah. Try to make this Shabbat spiritual. Bring your spirit out. Because your spirit is always crying for leaving. You know who said that? And my spirit is crying for living. The neshama never wants to stay here in our body. The neshama doesn't want to stay here because it's not worth it for it to stay here. It gets corrupted, it suffers. In order to make it work, we need to make the neshama worthwhile for our neshama to do so. We have to sanctify our bodies and our thoughts for the neshama to be appropriate to dwell in. Then we can really execute things. So Rabotai, look into yourselves. Don't be the judge. Evaluate yourself. Don't look at people, Jews or Gentiles. Don't look at people on the outside. Look at the insides. Look at the essence of things. Evaluate the essence of things, whether it's your job, or whether it's the way you live your life, and so on and so forth. The essence, not the title. And the bottom line is that there's a good chance to have a very good life. This is just the beginning of that. It's very complex ideas, but I think it will help us carry us through. And b'zchut zeh, we should be able to be mekabel, ve'afta l'reacha kamocha, but truthfully, we're going to be able to feel that. It's not just going to be a slogan that we're going to use. It's going to be a motto to our lives. And b'zchut zeh, the Torah is, the kiyum Torah is dependent on that. Kiyum Torah, ve'afta l'reacha kamocha, u'klal gadol b'Torah, only comes when I'm able to connect to the pnimiyut of things, or the externalism of things. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova, Gmar Chatima Tova.